When I was a kid in Vienna, I used to sing in the choir. I was a mezzo-soprano, and I used to sing in the choir of Cantor Frankel in Polnischen Temple. And that was a wonderful congregation. It did everything that Orthodox enlightened people in Poland would have liked to be. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's not black hat, and that's schöne balbatische Jiden who'd like to have a good chazan and a choir, and droshes from Herrn Rabbiner, you know, and that was called the Polnische Temple, the Polish shul. So sometimes we choir boys got to do a solo. Oh, it was a solo. The solo was the thing. I didn't get it. Not that one. But I wanted it very much because that was a Shabbos that people who normally wouldn't go to Polnischen Temple but to daven in the Stiebel would still go to Polnischen Temple because, for instance, like Shabbos Shiur, in Polnischen temples, the choir did the best that they could. You know, it was every good piece that people loved. We would do, and it is in some way a pity that the most shuls don't do yotzrot. You know, all those things that you insert when a particular day is on the calendar. And for instance, Parshas, so so there were some people, the Payetanim, who wrote fantastic poetry, and in order to be able to understand that poetry, even not in the daven, but simply studying it, you have to be a master in a Jewish equivalent of the New York Times puzzle. Okay? If you didn't know all the midrashic allusions and the puns on the various psukim and so on and so forth, you were lost. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they try to do virtuoso stuff, and Parshat Zachor, which is going to come before Purim, has the following: Otz kotzeitz ben kotzeitz kitzutzai lekatzeitz ritzutzai leratzeitz. Now, in order to put these words together in that form, and then you don't know, Otz he rushed, kotzeitz the cutter, ben kotzeitz the son of the cutter, kitzutzai lekatzeitz, my cuttings to cut. Well, what's going on here, you know? So you have to know that he's talking about Haman, who is the one who came to cut, who is Ben Amalek, Ben Kotzetz, Kitzutzai, those that he thought that he would be able to cut down, and cut them. So what did God do? And then he continues with how he saved us, okay? So, but the virtuosity of piyut is it's very, very hard to use that in davening. So what happened was that various chazanim built around those impossible lyrics some beautiful melodies, and they would take the key lines of that poem and use that key line of the poem for a repetitive choral piece. So now comes Shabbos Shekalim, and it has a line in there. Dear God, I hope that my money is really clean money, but I know that I also have stolen some. Just being in the world with business. Moreover, I didn't give my machzit shekel, because every Jew, poor or rich, has to give machzit shekel. I didn't give my machzit shekel. So I'm praying for forgiveness for that condition. So the solo went. I go zalti shekulai mitet kavo v'fernefesh v'navati b'meitzol v'refesh. Again, and now the whole choir would take up go zalti, and then we would do variations on that. But so all of a sudden, Gozalti Shekolai became a very nice tapestry of fun stuff. And I think when Enron people were in the height of their shake, that would fit for them, the melody, you know. Yai, die, 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 die.
I could see him at the hearings. I could see him at the hearings singing that, chanting that. You know, when they were at the hearings with the Senate, and I could just see them sitting there chanting that. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's another story you remind me. You see, I promised myself I'm going to let you do a lot of the talking. That's why I put that mic in there. Say that again, because I lost it already.
The idea of sitting at the Senate hearings, and they would be chanting this, the Gezalti Shekel.
Yes. So there are two guys who are schnorrers. And one guy is really the guy who's always the picaresque guy, you know. He is the guy who's going to skin the law and stuff like that. But he's also a good chazan. So the two schleppers, they're going from town to town to beg, figure, what are we going to do? Why don't we advertise that we are chazanim, that we can do the holidays? And this way, usually people pay for that, and we'll have some money. So he says, but I don't know chazanis, says the other guy. He says, come on, I'll show you. Ay, 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 ha-melech yoshev, so on it goes, okay? Mm-hmm. So he's got him trained. The other guy's going to be the Baal Shachris, and he will be the Baal Musaf, and they're working in town. So it gets to be that after Yom Kippur, they're counting the spoons, and they catch a silver spoon in the pocket of the chazan, the Baal Musaf. So now the Baal Musaf is in jail, and he's looking out between the grates, and he sees the other guy walking down the street with a speckle going to the next town, having money and, you know, nice spring in his step, and he's happy. So he calls out from the jail, ay, 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 ay. He points to the man and says, ha, 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 ha-melech. And the other one says, yoy, shehiv. You're sitting in jail, okay? Anyway, that's one of those stories that comes from, what, 70 years ago. Okay. All right. So it's Parshat Shekalim. So I have a few things that I want to share with you. First, that the Ibn Ezra on this Sedra is wonderful. And there's a whole section about Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo. And, you know, everybody is, Rashi would just jump to what the rabbis say, and give us the definition, Achav L'Tafshil and L'Hanoah, you know, and L'Achila. These three things, that's why it has to say it 3 times. But he is asking, what's going on about this Gedi, and what do we mean by Gedi, and who would want to do that? V'chein ochlin oto, here, על כן יבשלו הגדי בחלב, ואל תטמא בעבור שלא נהגו אנשי אלה המקומות לאכול גדי עזים, כי כל הרופאים מודים, כי אין בשר כמוהו, ואפילו לחולים התירו שיאכלו. וכן אוכלים אותו בספרד ובאפריקה, וארץ ישראל ופרס ובבל. גם ככה הימין הקדמונים. Okay? Then he goes on. ואין לנו צורך לבקש מה טעם איסורו או בשר וחלב, כי נעלם מעיני הנבונים. Because even the smart ones don't know what it is. Ne'elam, it is hidden away, מעיני הנבונים.
Rabbi Zalman, the first part was about just the Gedi without the milk. What you were reading.
First he was talking about Gedi, a definition of Gedi, and then he goes to the Gedi b'chalav. But here, watch the final line here. Just had the place I wanted to read. No, I can't find it. Where he says that it is hidden me'eni hanbonim, that I just read you, and I don't see it right now. Kinela me'eni hanbonim, ulayhem, ki achzariot lev hu levashel hagediyim chalavimo, and he quotes all those things that say about being rachmanim and so on. That these are the things to be considered, but he says that's not the real reason. Okay, so I thought that this was a wonderful shtickle.
Didn't you once say that the reason that it's in there is that it was the custom of the Avodah Zarah people?
That's right, of the Canaanites. Yeah, that was
aphrodisiac. It was an aphrodisiac custom, wasn't it?
That's right. For a celebration there. But look, this, who knew about the Ugaritic writings when they were doing the Parshanut? It's just wonderful to hear Ibn Ezra give us plant names and things like this in Hebrew and Arabic and in other languages too. You know, sometimes he writes about how wonderful the Indian people are because they don't eat any basar, you know, and then he says there's hardly any Geneva there, you know. So giving a certain kind of credit to that culture, you wouldn't find anyone in those days that he was. So I was saying to Eve that if we had a Jewish Oxford, I would want to initiate an Ibn Ezra society. You know? People who would study his things and discuss some of the hidden things of what he meant and so on and so forth. All right. The next thing is we could read a little bit more of that material.
This?
Yeah. Give a hand. Over here there's some more. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you don't have.
Just from the book that we bought?
No.
No.
No, we both need to share.
share.
We'll share. We're
Can
fine.
you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll share.
Taking all my chazarai.
Well, you guys ought to bring him back. You guys would take him home,
I
yeah?
don't,
I thought people were leaving them.
I haven't got that.
How far did we get? I think we are now on the third page. Ela dvarim asher yaseh ha'adam v'chai bahem. Okay, got that?
No.
No.
Where?
Okay, Lola. On page 3?
No, it turns out 5.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
The line begins, Ela dvarim asher yaseh
Right
ha'adam. Okay, got it?
there.
Okay. Ruth Leben, b'mchilat kevodech. I'll ask you to read if you can.
Okay, I'll try. Let me get my little magnifier on.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Pretty small print. ועתה לא אתם שלחתם אותי הנה כי האלוקים. דיבר זה, דבר זה יאמר כל יהודי כלפי תרדות הפרנסה ואשתו וילדיו ושאר ענייני העולם הזה המעסיקים
keep you busy, Asay.
אותו. לא אתם שלחתם אותי הנה, לא באתי לעולם הזה בעבורכם כי האלוקים באתי לשם מטרת אלוקית. ועליי לראות בעיקר לצרכים הרוחניים של הנשמה. This is really strong.
Wow. You know, it's like the statement, I answer to a higher authority. Yeah? I mean, sometimes people can push you with all kinds of things. And you can say, Lo atem shlachtani. You know? Yeah. Lo atem shlachtem oti. Wonderful.
It's like Mordechai.
Yeah. Huh?
It's like Mordechai.
Say,
Like Mordechai.
say more.
When he said that he wouldn't bow to Haman, he said, I don't bow to anybody else.
That's right. He answers to a higher authority. Yes, yes.
This quote is from Yosef, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. There was another thing I wanted to share with you, Hank. Yes. When they came to, after they arrested the Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzhak, and they took him to a prison called the Spolerka in Moscow, they were pushing him very hard, you know, all the things that you now hear about what's happening in, what's the name of that prison? Huh?
You mean Guantanamo? Guantanamo? Or?
Guantanamo, or the one in the
Abu Ghraib?
Abu Ghraib prison, right?
Whereabouts?
You know, we couldn't, it was all so hidden because every country in every which way is using some form of this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But here you can see a Rebbe is being put under this whole business. They're trying to, if they could get him to embrace communism and come out for communism, what kind of a victory they would have. So they are working with it, and nothing is helping. One day a guy comes with a gun in his hand, pushes it against his ribs, and says, this Strashunok, threatener, this little threatener has made many men change his mind. So the Rebbe turns to him and says, only a man who has many gods to serve and only one world to serve them in is afraid. Mm. But I who have only one God to serve and many worlds to serve him in, I'm not afraid. Mm. You know, You have a sense of, lo atem shalachtem oti. Okay, let's go on some more.
היא אצלך,
Yeah,
ויהי אלוקים עמך. עמך.
yeah. It may be imach at the end of a sentence.
Right.
Yeah.
עצתי שבכל ענייניך תראה להתקרב על ידם השם יתברך, ותבקש עזרו, ותסמוך תישען עליו ועל חסידיו המרובים. חסדיו המרובים.
Thank you. Thank you for reading. My best Eitzah, you know, there's such a pity when you have to take stuff like this and put it in short Hebrew terms. But if you could put it in the pithy sayings of a Rebbe in Yiddish, you know, you'd hear it a little different. Ayotzcha. The beste Eitzah was ich kann dir geben is Yi Elokim Imoch. Whatever you're going to do, whichever way you're going to do it, mitten Rebbeinu Shlomo, Imoch. Okay? I can hear him say it this way, you know? But then it gets, it comes into these words, and it gets to be so head. But when you can hear someone who you can feel the love of that person, and that person is trying to help you and gives you the best success and wants to help you in life and gives you this kind of statement. Yeah. Okay. Another one.
So small. מלאה הארץ קנייניך. כל העולם מלא בדברים שיוכלו לקנות בהם.
אלוקות ויראת שמיים.
אלוקות ויראת שמיים.
This is so wonderful. I will translate it into English. The whole world is full of God bargains. Right? You can buy God with so many things, you know. God bargains are abundant. Okay, now it's going to be a lot easier because I promised myself I'm not going to do all the work today, so I'm going to pass this on to you to read Parshat Shekalim until here. That's from Eliyahu Kitov. Sefer Toda'ah, what's it called? A book of our heritage.
When the sanctuary stood, it was a positive mitzvah incumbent upon every Jew to give a half shekel annually, which was used to purchase animals for the community sacrifices.
A little louder if you can.
Okay. All of the communal sacrifices offered during the year were purchased with the donation of half shekels from that year and not from any other year. Everyone was obligated in this mitzvah, even the poor, who were supported by charity. If the poor person lacked the half shekel, he was required to borrow it or even pawn or sell one of his garments. For the verse Shmot 30:15 states, "The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than a half shekel." The half shekel could not be paid in installments. All the half shekel contributions were due in the sanctuary by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, for on that date allocations were made from the treasury for the purchase of animals that were brought for communal sacrifices during the course of the year.
Hold. You know about the Zionist organization selling shekels?
No.
You know? No. There's no been on the web. I'm going to try and find it for you. That there's a vote going on in the Zionist Congress about representation. And so they're green Zionists and they're peace Zionists and they're all kinds. And you can Google it up, and with a credit card, you pay something and you vote for a thing. And
Well,
it's
it's the World Zionist Organization.
yeah,
I know about this because they're voting on parties.
yeah,
And I know about this because Matt's party was refused.
who?
Matt Finberg.
Yeah,
They refused to allow his party to be represented because they didn't like his ideas, even though he fits within the framework. And so I find myself, this radical, standing up for Matt's party, which I don't like, but
sure,
it's the JDL,
yeah.
you know. Yeah, so we're registered to vote.
Well, that is for me such a. If someone were to say, "Show me an example of Jewish renewal," I would say this is. You know, it's taking in our in our social and technological environment what this is. That once a year, remember, it was for the korbanot hatzibur. So it says it brings us together. Is how Hakhel is also such a mitzvah to gather the people. And when these mitzvahs come along, how wonderful that is, and to be able to do it now in a modern way too. Please continue.
It was necessary that all Israel have a part in those sacrifices that came to atone for the whole people. It was customary to make public announcements, beginning on Rosh Chodesh Adar, reminding people to bring their half shekels, so that everyone would have sufficient time to secure the funds. On the 15th of Adar, collectors would begin sitting in each city and would ask that the contributions be brought. One who did not bring the half shekel at that time was not coerced to do so. On the 25th of Adar, the collectors would sit in the sanctuary. From that date on, those who did not bring the contribution were forced to do so. The sages ordained that on the Shabbos immediately preceding Adar, or on Rosh Chodesh itself, if it falls on Shabbos, the portion of the Torah that mentions the half shekel should be read. For on Shabbos, the entire nation gathers in the synagogues and study halls to hear the reading of the Torah. The reading of the portion of the half shekel thus served as the first call for the fulfillment of the mitzvah at the proper time. Today, when we no longer have the Beit HaMikdash, and we no longer bring sacrifices, the mitzvah of the half shekel is no longer applicable. Nevertheless, we still read the portion of the half shekel at the appropriate time so that the Torah reading might be regarded as if we had actually fulfilled the mitzvah. As the verse Hosea 14:3 states, "And our lips shall substitute for the oxen," i.e., our prayers shall take the place of the animals, which we no longer sacrifice. Another reason, the sages ordained that the portion of the Shekalim be read at the appropriate time even nowadays, for we pray that the Beit HaMikdash will soon be rebuilt, and therefore it is incumbent upon us to be familiar with the proper manner of fulfilling this mitzvah.
Go on.
The mitzvah of the half shekel is especially favored, for it teaches us to love our fellow Jews greatly. All Jews are equal before God, and the most important of the divine services, the offering of the communal sacrifices, was fulfilled by all Jews equally. There are no rich or poor before God, no favored or disfavored. All are close to Him, and all of their sacrifices come before Him, pleasantly bringing atonement for all their sins.
Yes, occur. When I ask myself, sure, we have ways of doing the half a shekel. Before the reading of the Megillah, they usually put on a plate 3 $half coins, because it has to say on it half. If it were a halfpenny, it would also be a half, as long as it's half, because a machzit is important. And what we would do would redeem that in current money, which is fake, because the $half it's got copper underneath and not silver. So we had 3 genuine half dollar for that, and people would buy them, and put money in the pushki where that was, and for that money they would buy them, and then they would give them in the other pushki, and so they would put it back later on for the next guy to be able to do it with emese machzis shekel.
That's what you were referring to before when you said online there's a place where you can buy shekels.
Yeah.
Yes?
No, not that. I was referring to that Zionist organization thing because I think the vote that you buy, the membership, is called a shekel.
But is there a place where you can actually buy a silver shekel? Or
Yes, there are such that have been minted in Israel. I think I have one like that was minted in Israel. But let's go a little bit higher, okay? He ended the statement by saying that we are today uneshalma parim sfatenu, so tefillah is b'makom korbanot, and that we got. But that was the other paradigm. You know what I mean? Then it was in Pisces you are verbal, and the verbal takes over from the killing of animals. Okay, but now, and what is it now in the Aquarian situation? So 2 things come up as being the thing of which ha'ashir lo yarbe v'hadal lo yamit is time. The biggest gevir in the world doesn't have more than 60 seconds for a minute, and the poorest person doesn't have less, okay? So here you have a sense of time. And I think that's a very important thing of one of the dimensions of service to God. When it first dawned on me to ask this question of myself, if someone were to say, how old am I? So I'm past 81. How old is my conscious Judaism? I would have to take off about 14, 15 years from that. If I were to say, how old is, I go through my various places, emotions, intellect, and so on and so forth. It's not where the chronological age is at all. When it comes to certain kind of issues that have been sitting in our guts since we were children, it's very hard to find people who have made it past adolescence there, because you find sometimes you come home, you're already such a good guy, the world respects you and so on and so forth. You come in with your family and the bickering in the mishpacha starts again, and look, where are you? You're right back in your teenage years at that point, because that is our emotional age. And now you go to the spiritual age, and if I were to say, Mazel Tov. If you could just lift the receiver in the other office. Reb Tirtz is away, and I don't know where, and Dorit couldn't come.
Not in Victor.
Yeah.
I'll just wait for Ruth to come.
The receivers were both okay.
I don't know how that may be a leftover from.
It was from a message. I think a message that had.
Don't worry.
I checked that they were both properly.
So we talk about this thing of Hadal lo yamid, Ashir lo yarbe. Okay. So that is a way in which you have an equalization of something with people, that you say, what is the common denominator in which rich and poor are the same? It's time. Okay. The wonderful thing is, though, that in a certain way we can learn to expand or to shrink time also. But we'll leave that alone at this point, okay? Boy, I read a posuk that was so good last night, and I wanted to remember it for today. The purpose of that posuk was, the posuk is very good, but the upshot of the pasuk deals with the presentation of oneself. And anything that one is doing as a mitzvah or whatever to enhance the presentation of oneself, that is both an avodah zarah and a shaloi lishmo, Because whom does one serve then? Okay. Now, it is so easily said, because the moment we scrape off one, the second one is right in the place. And so there's a lot of work in there. And some people, you would say, have a very weak self-image. And some people have a very strong self-image. And when you talk about gravitas, that person has gravitas. That's shekel, and that's where the word comes from, mishkal, shekel. When you speak about making up your mind, you call it a shikul hadat. You're measuring it, you're weighing it in your mind. So you could see it goes from the physical to the emotional. How much weight do you give something, Is another way of the shekel. So to be able to say, how do I know what I'm going to do? Well, it depends. If I'm an extrovert driven by what other people say, I'm going to do it the way they want it. I may also be such a narcissist that I don't see anyone else in the whole universe anyway, and everything is for myself. I know what I'm going to do. So there's one machzis hashekel that doesn't know, that says there's some other people in the world, and their opinion of you counts. On the other hand, the people are saying, hacking you a chinik all the time, you should do this, you should do that, but you also have something inside of yourself, Which one are you going to listen to? So you get the sense that machzis hashekel you have to give to the public. When a person doesn't do that, for the public welfare, for the public good, if a person doesn't do that, then what happens is they only go by their own shekel, and not by a half a shekel is necessary. They tell this wonderful word. The Gemara says that the Talmud Chochem is entitled to a shminit shebishminit of gava. You can have a 64th part of pride. You can have that, an eighth of an eighth. Why? Because it's less than 60. It's bottle b'shishim. If you have 60% of Hi, go.
Sorry to interrupt, but honey, yes, I'm trying to reach you. The person's husband took a turn for the worse.
Okay, I gotta go. I'm sorry.
Go l'chaim l'shalom. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Give regards at home. Have a good Shabbos. I am disappointed.
Talia?
I thought you came to work
I'm sorry.
next week, Sunday,
Next week, I'll be there
whenever.
on Monday. Feel better.
Okay. Where were we?
Less
Macht
than a
es-
60.
Huh?
It's less than a 60.
Less than a 60th, right? And therefore, it doesn't affect it. It's not it's an inactive thing. Okay. Now you can understand that people would sometimes argue about Kovet Torah, how dare you to speak to me, Kovet Torah would demand that you should treat me better and so on and so forth. They had all that kind of stuff. So someone asked the Vilna Gaon, tell me, what is a good definition of a Shminit Shebishminit? So he said, for this you gotta listen. You can't write, okay? You can write later. Which is the 8th Sedra? That's Shminit.
Which is it?
The 8th Sedra, like of Breshit.
Yeah,
Oh, which is it? Vayishlach.
huh?
Vayishlach.
That's right. And the 8th Pasuk is there. Katonti mikol hachasadim. So the Vilna Gaon, could you imagine such a mind? You say to someone an 8 of an 8, what's an 8 of an 8? And the Pasuk jumps right up. Yeah, amazing. But once you hear this, besides the cleverness of that, it's really a beautiful thing. Sheminit shebishminit. It's katonti. Okay. I think, let me see where we are with time. I wanted to share another shtickle with you here from the Piasetzner. I thought this, think about these 4 Shabbatot. When I wrote that letter to the Pope, it was about home observance. And a good Catholic used to have a calendar. And this was Saint so-and-so's day, and this was this, and so many weeks in Advent. They had a whole Geschäft in the calendar. Rabbi Shamshon Raphael Hirsch said that someone asked him, what's the Jewish catechism? He says, the Jewish calendar, because it has everything that we believe, everything we go through is in the calendar. If someone were to ask me, what is the way if I want to become a Jew and see what that's like, I'd want to say live the Jewish calendar for a year. With its meaning, with everything else, because it would show you the parts that are the grace parts, and show you the parts that are the works parts. You get to understand the thing, how it works. So when we have these, what do you call those things that they put on the traffic, a speed bump. So if you have speed bumps in time that are called Shkolim, and Zachar, and Paro, and Chodesh, and so on and so forth. So they are to say something there. They have something to do to make us conscious. So I just didn't want this to go because most of the time we only talk about the Sedra, and that's important too. Could you imagine, there used to be such wonderful things that we did way, way back when I had the koyach and the chutzpah to do that. We would have a retreat in Fellowship House Farm on Shabbos Chazon, and it was for the sake of working on vision. You know, this is the Shabbos for that. And since Mashiach's birthday is Tisha B'Av, so the question was always, can you focus the vision on what the world would be like if everything were to be right? You know, those wonderful retreats. I can imagine what would I do if I would be younger and had the koyach and the gumption. What would I want to do now? I would want to do a retreat for businessmen on Parshat Shekalim. You know? And begin to talk about all the things that, you know, we have such a limited awareness of what finance is like. The complexity that it has taken, you know. When the guys reported debit stuff as credit stuff in their books in order to enhance their thing, how would I put it? It was playing with the balls, you know, the juggle balls, that is money and finance, because it has hardly any reality anymore, you know. It goes from bank to bank, from credit card to credit card, and you start saying, what's the, does it have substance? Reb Nachman used to say like this, was ist Geld? He says, wo ist die Geld, was Menschen haben gemacht von der Zeit, wo die Welt hat angehäuben? Gar nicht mit gar nicht. Where is all the money that the people have made? There's nothing. if there's such a thing as making money. So he understood that money is something that circulates, it's not something that you hold and have. Okay? Then he came up with another thing. He says, how does the Yetzer Hara proceed? He says, he goes like this, do you know what I have in my hand? Huh? I got what you want in my hand. Yes. And you would go and do whatever in order to get that, and then he would open his hand and say, Gornish, mishgonish. There was nothing in there. So that's how he described the thing. So if I could imagine how people who understand finance a lot deeper would begin to talk to each other about, you know, I could introduce basic Jewish laws there, but I want to say to people, how do you see that? From your perspective, what do you make of that, you know? When is a deal a good deal? That's a question I had a long time, wanted to put it to business schools, and nobody took it yet. To have research, social research, to find out from business people that they should tell the story of when they had a deal that they felt it was good. I didn't rip them off, they didn't rip me off, we really had a good exchange. Now if you could imagine bringing all that together, what people would learn about how to do business the right way, you know, the kosher way. So, these are the kinds of thoughts I have about how I would do a Parshat Shekalim retreat, yeah.
What would, if we could give a half a shekel every single Jewish person in the world, what do you think would be a good use of it? That would be in line with the idea of a community korban.
You're saying if everyone would put that in.
If we actually gave a half a dollar or half a whatever.
Yeah, so let's figure out, imagine if this were to be about $7 million today, okay? So the question is, how would I spend it? The first thing is that I would do is hire the best people in the world to make a break the Sefer Barrier Institute. A way in which you could go and spend time there and get so good at reading Hebrew and Aramaic that any sefer you open, you'd understand what's going on there. Okay? And they should be able to accomplish that in a year while people would be living through that calendar. And scholarships to be given out to people, and first I would like to put, people who help out in synagogues to this thing. I mean, if I were a rich man. Okay, let's see, what would I do next?
Great.
I would get a good team of cultural anthropologists together with poskim. So that the anthropologists could start describing what is happening in the world today. Look, when I asked this thing about money, and the complexity of that, it's not paper and it's not coins, it's a stream of something, of an energy, So, what was the other thing after money? I just mentioned that.
Break the Sefer
Huh?
Barrier? Break the Sefer Barrier?
That was the Sefer Barrier Institute. The other one...
The cultural anthropologist?
Yes, thank you. Because when you start asking the question, what did a mitzvah want to achieve at one point, and what were the benefits, and the cultural anthropologists would also have to be trained in transpersonal psychology and sociology, otherwise they don't fit, okay? And then they would say, this is the range of things that this used to achieve in the past. And then I would say, would you now meet with some artists who are spiritual people and design that? I would so love to see, so many people have rewritten the Haggadah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you something, I've seen some of them, they don't work. And the old one doesn't work either. And when we do the Seder, you remember how we do it. I just go by the Simanim, Kaddish or Chadz, Yachadz. And then as we decide and as we work it through, that's how we do it. So I would like to see a Haggadah designed in such a way. Yeah. Instead of conservative, Reform, and Orthodox congregation, I would like to have people join a congregation according to their personality type. The rationalist person should go to this and this shul, and oi, do I have a good rabbi for you. The people who'd like to do something more spiritual, you go to that congregation. So that people would get what they need, because as it is, you have to do one service for all. Everybody is dissatisfied. Okay, what else? It's such a good question. You can tell me too. I mean, I'll share with you.
Well, I was, the normal, obvious things would be trying to help with poverty and improve health and health and safety and education and all of these things, but they're sort of general. What you're saying is much more complex and has long range effects.
That's really what I'm asking. There was a survey done. Yes, Greenberg interviewed me once for 2 hours, and I told him that what they're doing for right now is a large waste of money. It's like a heart and lung machine that's keeping that brain dead one alive. If you want to invest, you should invest not in annuals, but in perennials. And perennials means that if you can help bring about, train leadership so that they know what they're doing, not drive by the rear view mirror and so on and so forth, invest in that. that teaching such people, finding such people, teaching such people is going to make a big difference. Understanding that the whole social setup that we have right now, which is UJA and the synagogues and JCC and so on and so forth, it's all old institutions that only the people create the organic link. The institutions don't allow for that. Okay. Now, what would be if you would be able to have an organic link between the institutions so that they would be able to work better together? You know, so the same way as we say ergonomic, you know, so you can say it the same way with that. So my sense is always to start saying, like I would say to the people, tell me, who would design the curriculum that would produce for us Lamed Vav next 25 years? You know? So it's that kind of thinking that's forward-looking. Kinderlich, I'm tired today.
Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this at all today.
Bless you. You know what? Teaching gives me koyach, it makes me happy, but the goof also says enough now. Okay.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Good
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Yeah.
Yes.